Hello, everyone. I'm David Brigham. I'm the librarian and CEO of the Historical Society of Pennsylvania. Today is a very auspicious day. It's the 200th birthday of the founding of HSP. Back in 1824, there was no Historical Society of Pennsylvania, and our founders got together with the idea that it was important to preserve our past, not only as a way of looking backwards, but of planning the future. Right here in front of me is the original charter with the signatures of the 19 founders of HSP, and it describes the purpose of the institution as being to collect and preserve the evidences of its own history from the earliest date is both the duty and interest of every political society, whether its progress has been prosperous or disastrous, and to ascertain and develop the natural resources of a state, to investigate its climate, soil, progress of population, and other statistical points are objects equally worthy of attention, and which demand and deserve the united efforts of all who are desirous to honor the character and advance the prosperity of their commonwealth. So it's very clear that they were interested not only in preserving the records of what had come before, but of building a successful Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Upon forming this document, they set out to establish 10 committees which would collect in various topical areas. Those areas included William Penn and the founders of Pennsylvania, the native people of Pennsylvania, the judicial history, the literary history, the political history. So they had very broad interests, and they intended to collect voraciously. They succeeded because today we have about 22 million documents and rare and unique items in the collection. The founders came together in 1824, I think for a couple of key reasons, things that were happening in their own time. A man named Peter du Ponceau, a French emigre, a lawyer with an international practice, and a very learned and thoughtful man, was interested in forming a society to bring Pennsylvanians together every year to celebrate the arrival of William Penn in the New World. He particularly noted that Massachusetts had such a society to commemorate the landing at Plymouth Rock, and he felt that William Penn was at least as important and perhaps even more principled than his Pilgrim counterparts in Massachusetts. That was one factor. The other was the arrival of the Marquis de Lafayette in 1824, the French general who led the alliance that helped George Washington and the Continental Army to succeed in their effort to separate the American colonies from Great Britain. And Lafayette was celebrated in every city and small town along the eastern seaboard and well inland. Philadelphia was one of the major stops. There was a parade, there was a grand ball, the records of which are now here at HSP. And when Lafayette visited New York, just prior to coming to Philadelphia, he was given a medal at the New York Historical Society. That made du Ponceau somewhat envious that New York had the ability to provide such a context for marking this key figure of the American Revolution. And yet, Pennsylvania did not. He felt that Pennsylvania was even more important than New York in the establishment of our nation. In 1816, just a few years before, the Pennsylvania State House, known to us as Independence Hall, had sold for $70,000. It was put up for sale with the idea that it might be redeveloped, and the city of Philadelphia purchased it from the Commonwealth. Of course, it was not yet the landmark that it is today. It did not have that revered status, or it wouldn't have been put on the market at all, and it certainly would have sold for a lot more than $70,000 even in 1816. Also, the generation of founders, the 1776 generation, was significantly depleted. People were dying. Key figures like Charles Thompson, who was the secretary to Continental Congress and then to the United States Congress, died earlier that year. And there were just a handful of signers of the Declaration and an even smaller number of signers of the Constitution who are still living in that year. So there was a sense of loss and a sense of urgency because of these various factors. The charter tells us that the information that was being gathered and collected was also meant to help the greatest minds of that generation, the 1820s and beyond, to think about a brighter future, how to learn from the past and not only look with nostalgia upon it. First chairman of the board was a man named William Rawle Sr., and he is the first signer of this charter. He was also the founder and chairman of the Pennsylvania Abolition Society. It's for that reason, I think, that HSP was a very inclusive organization from its first days. William Rawle articulated in his first speech that HSP would be a place for everyone who had curiosity and wanted to inquire into the collections here at the society. It was not a learned society, it was not exclusive, it was not only for its members, it was intended for everyone who would seek the past. And in that spirit, we continue to operate. And I hope that you will join me in celebrating our 200th anniversary. Thank you for being part of this very active and vital organization.